Put your hand up if you've been having a pretty rough week. I have. That is me. Apologies for this being a little bit late. I've just been under the weather. That's putting it lightly. This chapter, very simple though, very straightforward, but we do have a little bit to talk about. Some very interesting things moving forward, and we're prepping for something massive. At least that's what it seems like. So we got introduced to a new character. Half of their brain is spilling out. They have nails bolted in. They look oddly familiar. They're wielding a hammer with nails, etc. Looks like a typical fiend, but there could be a little bit more here. And my guess, sole guess for this, is Cosmo. Cosmo was a part of like Halloween and Quan Chi and the group of girls that Quan Chi had, right? They were all fiends. This is kind of the only one that shares the same aspect of the brain spilling out, but the character design looks very different. So I'm not too sure if their death and resurrection has made them look like this, or if there's something done by public safety, but that was originally my guess. Like, oh, this is Cosmos, this is part of like Halloween's group with Quan Chi. Odd similarities, right? But they send in this person from public safety to attack the chainsawman church, and of course the first thing they're pulling out is their weaponry, a bunch of guns, which, you know, small continuous indications that the gun devil will probably be back in action in some sort. This shouldn't necessarily be a surprise depending on how Fami and Chainsawman Church is operating with the gun devil, if that's a possibility, but it could be just public safety is finally making their moves to stamp out anything and now here is the divide that I was talking about, right? Because everyone arms up and they're all students, of course, but they don't really know what they're doing. They don't really know what cause they're fighting for. They're not really sure on why they have guns to begin with. And the whole ideology behind the Chainsawman Church is very much manipulative. So these students are finally starting to realize it. So when you have someone from public safety come in to annihilate all of these people, it's pretty easy pickings. The one problem that arises is one of the older gentlemen from the previous chapter is the Justice Devil incarnate, which isn't really surprising either if you're warping people's ideologies and trying to provide this sense of justice and betterment for humanity, and Chainsaw Man being like this idle piece figurehead. The Justice Devil is a pretty good thing to use. That does not last long either, not because of this new fiend, but one that gets He is back, better than ever, with a vengeance for Chainsaw Man, but this time underneath public safety. The plot thickens. Leave a like and subscribe, please. Now, realistically, that's the whole chapter. This other fiend with the brain pretty much annihilates everyone very easily using hammer and nails, and then Katana Man finishes off this Justice Devil incarnate, right? Straightforward, but it does bring up a lot of questions in terms of public safety's weaponry, their arsenal currently, because they've been pretty oddly quiet up to this point. Obviously Yoshida pushing this whole different agenda with Chainsaw Man and trying to attack Denji at his core, threatening his life, threatening Naoyata's life, etc, etc. But now you have Fumiko, who's kind of like this fill-in for Yoshida, potentially why he handles other things, and then you have public safety making their presence known with pretty much very powerful people. I don't think this is something that we've talked about or even mentioned because we didn't really have anything to go off. There would have been a very big gap with Makima gone. The ability that is control being underneath public safety would have been utilized very efficiently. So with her at the picture, you have to fill in that gap with more power. So we have Katana Man, we have Quan Chi again, we have potentially Reze, which could be on either side, but clearly they're saving her for last. And then this brain character who is pretty rightfully strong as well. So they're building their weaponry. They're not just using humans that's contracted with devils, and now utilizing hybrids and fiends, which makes me very curious on what they expect to actually happen, and it seems like it's more prep work for Nostradamus' prophecy and to combat currently the Chainsaw Man Church. Now that the church is pushed as being a terrorist organization, they have all the right and all of the kind of ability to take them out in whatever way they see fit, and this leaves a pretty big hole in what seemingly is Fami's plan, but at the same time you have people that kind of operate differently within here. There is massive distinctions with how people operate within the Chainsaw Man Church, and I'm curious to see how this actually affects Asa, considering she's the head, or at least one of the most popular ones, all this recognition, all of these people love her, but now that this group is deemed a terrorist organization, does that crumble in front of her eyes? Does she go back to being a loner? Does she go back to being bullied and ridiculed and isolated from everyone else? So do you see how we're kind of rotating things in and out in a way that's kind of following a pattern that's a little bit incoherent? Like, sure, it all makes sense, but at the same time, time, we don't know how deep or large the chainsawman church goes. We don't really know what their overall goal is, but we have some small ideas. And then we have public safety trying to do everything in their power, which is new for them in terms of fiends and hybrids, weaponization, and stopping everything before it even gets started. It's kind of messy, but in a pretty good way. Seeing Katana Man makes me pretty happy. Seeing Quan Chi makes me pretty happy. Knowing that they're on public safety's side, however, scary. I don't think Chainsaw Man would have a problem with Katana Man unless they've boosted him up exponentially in terms of power, but highly doubt it. The biggest issue or problem, I would say, is Quan Chi and Yoshida, respectfully. Of course, there could be an infinite amount of fiends that they have collecting within their basement. They could also have Reze, for example, to activate for Denji, respectfully. But we're in a position where Denji is kind of backed away from this whole thing, and we have Asa who's kind of weirdly entangled with it all. Now, this chapter, at least for me, leads me down a path of uncertainty, which is a good thing. It's standard for Fujimoto, of course, but things are definitely building, whether it be the conflict itself, a big reveal, the whole plan and idea surrounding what Fami is doing, who knows. But realistically, the Chainsaw Man Church was never going to function as well as potentially Fami might have thought. She easily could have seen all of this coming, and it's not like she's doing much to really stop it, but at the same time, maybe she had more faith with the hybrids. So you sit down and kind of ask these questions with what Fami's doing, and knowing that she has the ability to control powerful people, she's not going to be an easy person to take out. And I'm not even sure if public safety are gunning for her, but do remember the meeting that Yoshida and Fami had. Clearly, a lot of stuff was spoken within there. Their intentions? Probably. Reze has me really excited. The more I think about her, the more I think about public safety and Chainsaw Man Church. Utilizing her in any facet is scary because she is very strong, but that connection that she has with Denji is something pretty beautiful and could easily be manipulated in a lot of different ways if either side wanted to do it. My question is, who has her and who knows to utilize her that way? I'm going to guess because they have Quan Chi and Katana Man to somewhat equal it out, they also have Reze, alongside a hefty arsenal of devils, fiends, etc. to prep for this oncoming prophecy. What makes me skeptical about public safety's movement is that they're not really proactive. This is the only time that they've been proactive, and because they've had a clear path to a terrorist organization, but other than that, they've been working in the shadows. Why? I guess publicly they don't have to do anything, but they could have easily stamped out the Chainsaw Man Church before it even started, and the Chainsaw Man Church has been trying to lure Denji in quite actively, so why now of all times? Why wait so long for all of this to happen when you could have done it earlier? So do you see what I mean when I say that I'm skeptical with public safety? Like, what are their true intentions? What are they trying to do? It's hard to think that they're just in it for this benevolent feeling of helping humans. Like, these are the good guys, when we know deep down that public safety are manipulative and they want to control political power in a lot of aspects, especially on a global front. So I guess you could lead it backwards. Are they trying to weaponize this prophecy to make them seem like they are a global savior, a powerhouse of weaponry, to scare off other countries, but also to become reliant upon from other countries? Does that make sense? Stamping out any sort of opposing faction would be the first big step, so you could only go to public safety to put more power and emphasis towards them. Kind of works somewhat well, just with the loose amount of information that we have, but could easily be derailed just by Denji himself, which to me is probably why Yoshida has been there at the beginning of the story, to really keep an eye on what Denji is doing, learn him, study him, what makes him tick, and once figuring that out, putting all of this pressure onto him to not go back into that Chainsaw Man form. It's worked, clearly, very efficiently too, but there will become a point where it breaks, and that's probably the most dangerous aspect of it, especially when you have people like Naruto that are so close to Denji, and then you have someone like Asa who's trying to help Denji. All of their motives, at least for those three, kind of align really nicely, and then you have Fumiko throwing out curveballs. Can she be believed? Is she genuinely just trying to help Denji? Is she just an underling that's so deeply rooted into public safety, that's trying to squirm her way closer to Denji's heart? So everyone kind of suspicious. I'm excited to see where this goes, what Nostradamus' prophecy brings forward, and what characters are going to come out to play, because I have a strong feeling we have not seen all of them yet. That includes Yoshida, again, Reze, Kobeni, even Kishibe. Unfortunately, we have to wait and see.